Okay, welcome to Teach Online TV. My name is Tyler Basu, and today I am joined by Mike Morrison from the UK. He is one half of the team that runs the membershipguys.com. They've also got a podcast, an academy called the Membership Academy. And they've been helping business owners, entrepreneurs, online course creators create and run successful membership sites. And they've been doing this for several years. So they've got a lot of experience doing this and a lot of case studies of people who have done it successfully after learning from them. So Mike, thank you so much for taking the time to tackle this topic with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Listen, I should have you come around with me and introduce me everywhere. You explain what we do better than I do. It's awesome.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, well, the bios help, but I appreciate that. So I know I gave away a little bit about what you do, but if you could tell us, how you got into this in the first place. How did you become known as, one of the membership guys or the membership site expert?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've been involved in the online space for probably about 16, 17 years now, longer than I care to remember. And my first foray into the online world was through online communities. So I was like creating and running my own before I really even knew what I was doing. And I was still quite young, didn't really realize people like made money online and that it was anything other than just a playground. And so it took a little while for the penny to drop and for me to make the switch from normal, boring job into running a web agency, which I ran for well over a decade. Eventually, myself and my partner, the other half of the membership guys, Callie Willows, our businesses converged. We kind of met through business, through a membership site as well, if you want any sign that this was fated. And we just started niching down, for US watchers who don't pronounce it correctly. we started niching down and focusing more and more on the types of businesses we enjoyed, and tapping into my experience of running online communities and having experience with e-learning projects. We just started zeroing further and further in on only working with membership projects. And so, we pivoted our agency. So that's all we were doing for 4 or 5 years. And in doing so, we had the privilege of being involved in some very successful memberships. And now we teach other people how to do it, and we have a lot of fun.
That's awesome. That sounds it sounds good. There's a lot we can unpack here for sure. And I'm going to try to try to get as much value as we can from this, because I know Thinkific's audience especially, I mean, we've got thousands of people with online courses, but not as many with membership sites. And I just think it's because they don't quite understand the model, or they don't know why they should do it instead of, or how to decide if they should do a membership site instead of an online course. And so I wanted to start off with just a couple of basic questions, really to help understand what a membership site is and why it's different from an online course. So if you could just give us, just a couple of key reasons or some differentiators between a membership site and an online course.
Well, Tyler, it's tricky because technically, if you focus on the mechanics and the logistics, online courses are membership sites. And we actually originally had a little bit of trouble in creating our content initially of trying to avoid everything being why you should start a membership site or online course. But traditionally, I think in the sense of online business, your membership site is going to involve the addition and delivery of fresh new content over time, as opposed to being something that's a finished article that is static and is complete in terms of the learning objectives, in terms of the result people will get when they follow it. So the average or the most common membership sites, as we deal with them, as our members have them, it's regular ongoing content. Usually there's a community element to it as well. Sometimes there's a coaching element. So it's often quite a lot more of a commitment, a lot more work long term, whereas I think a course is a lot more focused, hardcore work to get a finished product done, and then from there it's selling and it's aftercare and it's looking at other possible solutions. So memberships are a marathon. where I would probably say courses are maybe a little bit more of a sprint in terms of that product creation. And this has its good sides as well, because what you tend to find is people don't expect memberships to be finished articles. When you join a membership site, you know that you're hopping on a moving train. And so that makes it a little bit easier to manage, a little bit easier to create content. And, the fact that you're delivering that ongoing value means you can build people on an ongoing basis as well. So you get that recurring revenue that just builds up over time as your subscribers grow. And it doesn't take long to be in that place where you just have that solid foundation. So if you have a month where you have bad sales, you still got hundreds of members that are paying you. So you're not starting from zero all the time. Whereas I think with online courses, like if you launch a course and it goes badly, you kind of then find yourself scrambling. Maybe there's a little bit more feast and famine than there would be with a membership site.
Right. Yeah, I think that's definitely one of the biggest differentiators is the pricing model. And with a membership site, you do get the recurring revenue, again, because people are paying every month or however often you're charging to continue to have access to the course. But the key there is continuing to give them content. Otherwise, there'd be no reason for them to continue paying to have access. Whereas with just a one-off course, typically the content's finished. It's in there, lesson 1 to 6 or however many lessons there are. Once you go through it, you're done. And there's no need to access the course anymore. And you might have paid for that all at once. You might have paid for it in payment plans. But once you've paid for it and you've finished the content, that's it. Unless there's another course or something, you're probably going to be done with it. So, yeah, I think I'm glad you touched on that. The two of the biggest differences are, number one, the pricing. You're going to be paying recurring, which is good from a business model perspective, because again, like you're not going to have those ups and downs in your income that you might have, in between launches or in between promotions of your course. You've got members paying every single month, so hopefully you see your income, going up each month.
And there's pros and cons to this, of course, because that means that it's a much slower burn. So if you nail your course, if you get your marketing right, if you've got an army of affiliates and you launch with a $1,000, $2,000 course, you're going to have a much bigger payday if it goes well than typically launching a membership site where the most you're going to be charging people. Usually on average in the B2B sector is going to be around $30 to $60 per month. B2C about $15 to $35. So many different factors that determine what you'll actually charge, but on average that's what you see. You need to get a lot more members if you're launching or running a special promo to have the same earning potential from a successful course launch versus a successful membership launch. But it's balancing up how you want to operate your business, what you want your day-to-day to be. And if you're happy with that slow burn and you want to build it over time, and you're creating content and serving your community fits more of what you want to do versus creating the ultimate course and then putting all of your attention on getting the sales funnel right and how to promote it and do those big launches, then it really becomes a matter of preference.
Right. Okay, no, that makes sense. And in terms of content for a membership site, what are some of the different types of content that we might put into our membership site, and how often, in your experience, should we be providing new content in order to keep members, keep them paying, keep them part of the site in the first place?
I mean, there's all sorts of ways you can skin the cat. We see memberships where actually they start as a static online course, and then once you're done with the course, you then almost graduate into an ongoing membership where you're literally just paying to keep having access and keep getting the community, and there's not really any substantial content added. There's all sorts of different ways you can do it. The way that we see being most effective in most cases for long-term success is with new, fresh content. Typically, like we like using something we call content streams. So this is where you'll have 4 different types of deliverable, 4 different types of content. It can be 3, it can be 5, whatever. We find 4 works best just as an easy to manage and easy plan number. 4 distinctly different types of deliverables They could be mini courses, tutorials, live training, like webinars, bringing in guest experts, mastermind calls. They could be things you wouldn't necessarily think of as content, like special offers and member perks, worksheets, checklists, all that sort of stuff. So 4 distinctly different deliverables. And then you release something new every week, but rather than just putting out the same thing every single week, bombarding someone with tutorial after tutorial, course after course, where they're going to feel it's too much and they're getting left behind and then they ultimately leave because they're overwhelmed. Instead, week 1, you release a mini course. Week 2, you release a checklist. Week 3, you do your live mastermind calls for your members where they can come on and ask you questions. Week 4, you put out a new perk or an offer, and then you cycle back around. So you're getting that ongoing value that keeps people hooked in. You're giving something fresh and giving something new every week, but it's not overwhelming people because it's not the same thing constantly. And you're catering to, the broad range of reasons why people might join your site. In some cases, we see memberships where the biggest attraction for the site is maybe, guest expert webinars, but you'll get members who literally only care about the member-only discounts that you can get them on the software, the tools that they're paying for, because they save more than they pay you for the membership. So in terms of what you choose, it's just about what's going to help you get results for your members, what's going to help you teach the concepts you need to teach. And that just comes down to understanding your topic, understanding your audience, and also being realistic about your own capabilities for creating courses and creating all the different types of content.
Mm-hmm. No, that's great advice. Are there any challenges with running a membership site that are unique to membership sites that you might not necessarily experience with the one-off online course?
I mean, retention becomes the big thing. This is where things differ with memberships the most compared to online courses, especially if you're billing people monthly. Like, if you're wanting people to pay you on an ongoing basis, you need to provide value on an ongoing basis. So marketing after the sale becomes essential. With an online course, with an ebook, with most types of info products, the sale is the end result. It's the end goal. It's the finish line. But with a membership, that sale's the starting pistol. It's not enough to just get that first sale. You need to get that sale again and again and again, month after month, year after year. So your retention strategy needs to be seriously solid. There's no point having a leaky bucket where you're constantly pouring water in through the top and wondering why the hell it's never full. So that's the part that surprises most people, especially if they've created an ebook or they've maybe run a few courses and then they try to make a transition into membership. I don't think people realize how much of a priority retention needs to be, because if people are just staying for 1 or 2 months and you're only earning $50 to $100 on average per member, you're getting the worst of both worlds. You're losing out on the bigger ticket sales that you would get if you were doing courses, but you're also not building the recurring revenue that makes that loss worthwhile long term. So yeah, you need to get retention nailed.
That's great advice. And you touched on this already, the importance of giving new content and different types of content to your members regularly, and that would certainly help with retention. But another word you brought up earlier was community. Often people will join a membership site because they want to be a part of a community of other people that are a part of that membership site as well. They want to connect with other students of that course. So in your experience, what are some of the best ways that we can build a community around our membership site and facilitate them interacting with each other and networking and learning from each other?
I mean, it starts with you. You've got to be your number one member. If you can't be bothered to show up and log into your community and reply to posts and stuff like that, why would anybody else? You need to be your number one member. A lot of people, especially memberships that are centered around an authority figure, an online expert or something like that. You get a lot of people who take that label a little too seriously, and they think that they have to distance themselves from the community, and that showing up and taking part in their community somehow diminishes their authority and all that sort of nonsense. We've just by nature of what we do, we've been in pretty much every membership of note, like over the years. The best ones are the ones where the community owner shows up and actually serves and proactively looks for opportunities to help members out, answers questions when people post them, welcomes new members. So that's what you can do on your side to get that going. And in the early days, you got to recognize you're going to be posting more than anybody else, like to get that momentum going. But if you manage it right, you will get to a point where members just answer their own questions and they start their own little conversations that occur without you ever needing to jump in there. You want to grease the wheels for that a little bit, so make sure you've got an introduction section for all new members to go in and introduce themselves, and that your onboarding process, so the emails you send to people, your new member checklist and all that sort of stuff that they see when they join, as a priority, gets people to create a profile and then introduce themselves in the community. That just plants that seed. They'll come back, they'll check if other people have said hello to them, they'll start those conversations, and then they're probably more likely to start using the community during that formative initial few weeks of being a member. Have things like coaching logs and progress diaries and stuff like that. So if your membership's teaching a skill, like music education, these work very well. If it's business related, so, someone may be, if you're helping them reach a particular outcome or milestones in their business, have somewhere that becomes their own in terms of a post or a section where they can start their own little journal. They can check in, they can keep themselves accountable, but will also be accountable within the community as well. Things like that give people skin in the game because they put time and they put effort into it. And so any decision then about whether or not they want to leave later on, that becomes a factor because they've already built up this progress diary. They've already made connections through introducing themselves. And, that just becomes another thing of, well, if I leave, then all of that is gone as well.
Yeah, those are some great tips. Actually, we recently had Chandler Bolt from Self-Publishing School. I don't know if you're familiar with his work. We recently had him on the show, and he helps people. His membership site helps people learn how to publish their book, and he has 60% of his members actually publishing a book, which is like really, really a high success rate. And part of the reason that happens is because when somebody joins the membership site, they're partnered up with somebody else. They call it an accountability buddy or accountability buddy, he calls it, for that reason that you talked about. Giving somebody accountability of some kind helps ensure that they're not only getting the information they need from the course, but doing something and implementing that information as well.
Yeah, I love that strategy. I know quite a few sites where they use it very effectively. I also know of a lot where they try to start it and it never takes off because, again, in those early days, you need to set the example. Like the first accountability buddy, really, in a lot of cases, should be you. So your established members, your power users, unless you bring in this in, at a point where you already have your power users who are regularly participating and they're proactively trying to add value to your community, which, those guys do emerge in many communities. Like if you want people to follow suit, you've got to lead the way. But yeah, if you get something like that going, especially if you're able to pair up experienced members with inexperienced members almost as a mentor, or if you are doing a membership site, some membership sites will close and then reopen. So if you do a membership where you have everyone coming in the same sort of intake group, then that kind of lends itself perfectly to that sort of accountability buddy system as well. But again, it's that commitment and that mindset that you are there to serve. You're there to help people achieve something. And people don't join memberships to stand still. They want a result. They've got a goal. They want to hit the transformation they want to see, or even just an interest they want to have indulged with like-minded people. You need to figure out what people want and what they need, and then make sure everything you do in your membership's in service of that.
Yeah, great tips. Now, from a technological standpoint, what have you found to be an effective way to facilitate or create a a group or a community, or like, are you using forums, discussion boards, Facebook groups? What are some of your favorite ways to do it?
I'm a big old school forum guy, and fortunately, the software for having a forum that doesn't look like it's from the late 90s. There are now some options. There was kind of this period of time where you had software called PHP BB, which is like the ugliest, horrendous user interface, or it was just a nightmare. And so that's why I think a lot of communities, or it's a factor in why people were using Facebook groups, for example, for their paid membership communities. I'm not a fan of doing that. For countless reasons. The top of that list of reasons now is that very soon Facebook will start showing ads in groups. They're already testing it, and it's just the death knell. If it's fair enough if it's a free group, if it's a paid group, yeah, your paying members will not be happy about seeing ads in there. So we use forum software. There's really only two, maybe a couple of others coming through, but there's really only two that I'm a big fan of. IP board, which they've kind of tweaked the branding to IPS Community Suite. Very modern, very slick. It's got the Facebook-esque features like tagging and status updates and stuff like that. Very cool software. We use that within our own forum. And there's another one called Zenforo, which has a lot of those features, but out of the box isn't quite as pretty as IP board, but it's still very powerful. And yeah, either of those work very well for forum-based communities. There's a couple of others coming through. There's one called Discourse, which is very promising. There's one called Mute, which is a little bit of a tech pain in the backside, but it's also very cool. And I've seen one or two people using Slack quite well for membership communities, but it's difficult to pull off.
Right.
Very difficult.
Right. Okay. And those can be like you can use those tools or those forums alongside Thinkific, right? If you've got your course itself, your membership site itself on Thinkific, you could have the group or the community aspect on using one of those tools, correct?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we see, I'm in a few courses and a couple of memberships where actually they are using Thinkific and Facebook groups. So they haven't got the community side right because they're using Facebook groups. But you could do the same thing using the forum software. If you are using a Facebook group, the main argument for having all these different bits and pieces and having your community on one platform and your content on another, the main argument against is the lack of connectivity, the lack of automation. But realistically, if you know that that's the case from the start, and you know that at worst somebody joins your membership and you have your membership on a platform like Thinkific, then as long as they get access to the content as the first thing, because that's what people join for the content. They stay for the community, but they join for the content. Then even if it takes, up to 12 to 24 hours for that to be added into your forum, and it takes you or your VA 2 or 3 minutes at most, like, it's not exactly going to run your business into the ground logistically if you don't have a script in the background that's automating all of that. So, I think as long as you have processes in place so that anyone who joins a membership where they're not immediately automatically added into the community, as long as they know that that's the case, you're fine. Because otherwise they're going to be wondering, well, where the hell's the rest of the membership that I paid for? So you need to make sure that people don't have a reason to question whether they've got everything they paid for or when am I going to be in the community and so on.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And there are definitely many ways to do that. I mean, you could even, include the link to where your community is or your forum is in the welcome email to your students, for example. Be like, hey, welcome to my course. You have access to the content, and here's the link to join the community or the Facebook group or wherever.
Yeah, and I know IP Board has the ability, I'm pretty sure Zenforo does as well, to have it so that people can register themselves in the community, but you then approve it in the same way that you would with a Facebook group. So again, that just minimizes the admin work because, like you say, you get them to go over, set up their account in their community. Then all you need to do once or twice a day, go in, check that the people who've registered are actually paying members, and just hit approve, and they automatically go in there.
Okay, good to know. Now I'd like to talk about marketing a little bit. We've touched on this, with an online course, a standalone course, often the model is do a big launch and then sales kind of cool off a bit, and then do another launch or get a joint venture partner to help promote, things like that. So you can see those spikes. But are there any differences in the way that we should market a membership site compared to an online course? And if so, what are some of your favorite ways to market a membership site?
We find, again, just from experience of some of the more successful memberships we've been involved in, where they're, at the 6-7 figure mark, organic marketing, that is a little bit slow burn. That doesn't rely on fine-tuning sales funnels and having the big launch and all of that. That tends to work better because the level of trust and the strength of relationship that's needed to get people to commit and invest in your membership site long term, not as a quick hit and run thing. That calls for that real solid organic marketing foundation that builds trust, and it nurtures a relationship and leads them into the membership. So it takes a little longer, but hit and run, latest marketing tricks, sales funnel tweaks, Facebook ad hacks, automated countdown timers, and all that sort of stuff doesn't tend to work as well with memberships, especially ones that are always open. Content marketing, without question, plays one of the biggest parts in getting to a point where members are just joining every day without you having to run specialized campaigns. So, we definitely think that if you're running a membership site, you should be blogging, podcasting, doing video, doing live streams anyway for your audience. The key is making sure that stuff is all aligned with your membership. So every single blog, podcast episode, video that you put out should in some way connect back to something in your membership, whether it's a course, whether it's a training session, whether it's a tutorial. You need to be able to connect the dots between blog post and email opt-in and sequence and pitch and product. So, rather than having your membership over here and your product over here and then trying to figure out how the hell to bridge the gap, it all needs to be part of the same picture. And you can play around with that. You can do things like Creative Live do, for example, where their free content is their paid content. Everything in their membership is available for free for a very limited window of time, but outside of that window, the only way of getting it's in the membership. Mixergy do the same thing with their interviews. Sites like Revolution Golf, which is a big golf-based membership, they throw all their free and their paid content in the same place. So as you're reading their blog and watching their videos, you're going to hit something you need to pay for. When that happens enough times, you're going to go down the rabbit hole and start looking into, the other perks of membership. So making sure your content marketing is fully aligned, that works very well just in terms of establishing your credibility, building that relationship, building that trust. And it's the anchor point to your sales funnels, your sales sequences, and so on. Webinars can work very well, especially, again, if your membership is e-learning based. Use content to sell content. Content's a big part of what you do, and it's the most obvious thing in the world. Content to sell content, community to sell community. So things like free Facebook groups work well as feeder systems into paid memberships. And when you've got that set up, our free Facebook group is one of the biggest sources of members for our site. You end up with an overlap where you are paying members who are still in the free Facebook group, and they start evangelizing for you. They start jumping on opportunities to recommend the membership, posting testimonials, and giving you all that social proof. That's worth far more than you just showing up pitching. So, if you get this foundation in place, then things like Facebook ads, things like, refining your sales funnels and all that stuff, when you've got that foundation, that stuff will amplify and accelerate what's already working. So you're not relying on just throwing loads of money at using Facebook ads to bring in members, reducing the profitability, and, giving yourself that risk that if Facebook all of a sudden starts slapping your ads down, your business is in trouble.
No, that's a great point. And I have to say that, if anyone wants to see a great example of content marketing and building a free community to get people into a paid community, they have to look no further than what you guys are doing. Because, I've been on your website, I've seen the articles on your blog, I've seen your podcast, I've seen you write for other websites. In fact, I found a super detailed article on membership sites over at foundermag.com. You've got a free, free Facebook group as well. So, and all these things point towards your paid membership academy. So I think you're definitely setting a great example in terms of content marketing. Even on Instagram, I've seen your Instagram with quotes that pertain to this topic.
Instagram's a little bit of a pain. I've become too accustomed to. I use CoSchedule. Actually, I love CoSchedule for social media schedule. I've become too accustomed to all of that being taken care of. Instagram still requires like the smallest amount of manual intervention, and every time I see that little notification pop up that says you need to approve this post, I'm like, I expect us to actually work for this stuff. It's crazy. But that organic, you mentioned our site, we've been able to grow a six-figure membership purely doing this organic stuff. One of our favorite clients that we've been involved in the music education niche, that's a seven-figure membership site that is pretty much based just on the founder putting out free lessons on YouTube. It's pure content. Without doubt, over everything else that we've tried on their sites and on ours, that content marketing strategy, that's what hooks people in. It ensures you have lots of open doors, lots of places where you can be discovered. And, as long as all roads lead back to the membership, then you do get to that point where it just ticks over. You just get a bunch of members joining every day without you having to do months and months of planning for a sales campaign, without you having to give away 50% of what you make to your affiliates and all that. I much prefer that approach.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, Mike, this has been great. We've covered quite a bit here in the time that we've had together, and I appreciate you sharing all of your insights. Is there anything that you wanted me to cover that I didn't? Is there any mistakes people can avoid, or is there any point that you'd really like to drive home to make sure we grasp that concept?
Yeah, I would. I always, I joke with people that I spend more time trying to talk people out of creating memberships than trying to talk people in. Like, you will hear a lot of people tell you should set up a membership site or you should set up an online course without actually qualifying it, without actually figuring out, are the time and the circumstances and the market right for you? Are you the right person to be doing this? Is your idea actually any good? And the problem especially with membership sites, and the snake oil stuff has been out there about memberships for years, and it's still unfortunately out there. Like, they're not for everyone. They're a lot of work. They require a lot of commitment. It's a business model, not a marketing gimmick, and it's a one you need to commit to long term. So you need to be genuinely ready and able and willing to commit long term. You also need to put in the time and the effort to validate that your idea is any good. That doesn't mean asking friends and family, because they won't know and they won't tell you even if they think it sucks. You need to prove that your idea actually has an audience who are willing to pay for solutions to a problem, that you are the right person to execute, and that you have the right mindset for this. You're doing it for the right reasons. You don't have unrealistic expectations, and that you can compel people to pay you. And one of the best ways, regardless of how you set up your membership site, like, one of the best ways you can do that is creating an MVP, putting together a course or a mini course that is representative of what you plan to do in your membership. Get it out there quick. And actually, you can use platforms like Thinkific to do this. Execute quick. Don't spend all your time messing around with the technology. Put something together and validate that the people are out there who want to pay you for a solution to their problem. That's the first thing. Secondly, that you are capable and able of compelling those people into actually buying something from you. Don't skip the idea validation stage, because if you do, what's going to happen is you'll open the doors to your membership and you'll hear crickets riding on the back of tumbleweeds, blowing through the eternal desert of despair, because people aren't going to just automatically sense that you have this great thing. And Kevin Costner be damned, build it and they will come is not a valid business strategy. Spend the time making sure you're not going down the wrong path and that your idea is actually a good one before you get sunk into a long-term commitment like a membership site.
Yeah, that's great advice. So number one, don't underestimate how much work it does take to run a membership site. You need to be ready to set it up and then continue to add content, to add training, to add value, to be engaged with your community, those things we talked about. And number two, make sure you can sell the thing. Make sure you validate the fact that there's actually going to be demand for your topic, that there's people out there that would be willing to pay to learn, whatever it is that you teach, and specifically, on a monthly basis, that they want to stay engaged. They don't just want to spend a weekend, go through a course and be done with it. They want that ongoing accountability, ongoing training, ongoing access to a community. Well, Mike, thank you so much. This has been a pleasure. I've just got one last question for you before we wrap up, because you've been building online businesses for several years now. You've been in the industry for a while, specifically with membership sites, and you've been sharing your knowledge. Like you've been teaching other people how to do what you do, and you've built a business around that, which is what course creators are aspiring to do as well. So I'm just curious, what kind of an impact has this particular business model had on your life? I mean, what are some things that you're able to do now that you weren't able to do before?
Yeah, wow, that's a great question. Nobody ever asks that question. That's so cool. Yeah, they really, really don't. They just want the tactical stuff. Yeah. It's really changed our day to day. We didn't decide to plant our flag in the sand and call ourselves the membership guys and fully commit to sacking our clients, firing our clients, getting away from any sort of one-on-one stuff and only running the membership. We didn't commit to doing that because we weren't making money or we weren't successful in the agency. We turned away a lot of work to go all in on this. We actually had to give back almost $60,000 in deposits for projects from people who booked us well in advance. So we gave up a lot to do this. So it wasn't for the money. It was more about how we make the money than how much money you make. And fortunately, we've been able to grow the academy so that, we've gone way beyond where the agency was in terms of revenue. But the big thing for us is just escaping that time for money trap, because when you're on that hamster wheel, man, you are always limited. You're always going to hit a brick wall. You're limited by your ability to show up and grind out billable hours. And as much as you love whatever it is you do, like that is always going to be there. You're never going to be able to scale. You're never going to be able to grow. You're never going to be able to get clients to pay you for all the things you would love to do for them, if only these things were a priority to them. So that escaping that time for money trap, the reduction in stress and pressure and time sensitivity and all those sorts of things has been great. My daily protest, I know a lot of people say, 4 a.m. is the productive hour and all. So my daily protest, I literally, doesn't matter what time I wake up, will not get out of bed until after 9 a.m. That is my big screw you to the world of commuting and client deadlines, I'll still answer emails, but just little things like that, the little victories, and knowing that, we can go traveling for a month and run our business from everywhere. Doesn't matter what time zone we're in. We're going to be in the Philippines next week. Then we're going to be in San Diego the week after with a little stop in the UK in between. And it doesn't matter. No, we don't have to have backup people in place. We don't have to apologize to members in advance because, we're going to be on a different time thing. Like that freedom, man, is huge. And it helps that, the financial side of things from the membership has come into place. But, that hasn't been the driving factor. And I don't think it should be with this kind of thing.
Okay, no, that's great advice. And thank you for sharing that. So, Mike, if our audience wants to get in touch with you, learn more about membership sites, take advantage of any of the great resources you put together, where are some of the places that we can send them?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me on. I've really enjoyed this, and I know we've had a bit of back and forth trying to nail this down, but I'm glad we were able to. Yeah, our best stuff, it's over at themembershipguys.com. That's where we blog, podcast, and have all sorts of good resources to help anyone, whether they're planning, building, or growing their membership. Anyone who is thinking of doing it or has a membership, you should be in our free Facebook group as well. If you go to talkmemberships.com, that'll redirect you to the Facebook group. And yeah, we've got about 3,500 membership site owners and some course creators in there as well. Get yourself in there. It's a great place to ask questions, get feedback, and get a bit of input from us as well.
Perfect. Well, I'll make sure I link to those in the notes below the video. And Mike, thank you again for taking the time to be on the show today. I know it's evening for you in the UK. You're probably getting ready to head off to bed. So I really appreciate it. You shared a lot of value here, and I think our audience will appreciate it.
No worries at all. Thanks again for having me on.
Cheers.